And I feel like I haven't done a character tier list in a while because we've just been so into all the seasons of the shows. Nora immediately started crying the minute I hit record because that is who she be. So if you hear a cat in the background, she's mad. Nora, come here. She's like, no, you're gonna pick me up. Ignoring the cat for a moment. We finished all of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. If you did not watch my reaction to the finale, it is up now. Regular edited, obviously for free on YouTube. If you'd like to watch my uncut reactions to the entire series, they are on Patreon. If you're watching this on Patreon, hi, how you doing? Thank you for being a patron. It is actually super helpful, especially for if something goes wrong with electronics. I can pull from there and be like, okay, we can get this camera or these new headphones because otherwise I can't record sometimes. Today, we're going to be kind of doing an overarching review. It is technically for season 5, but as season 5 is the last season, it is kind of an end of the show, where I feel about each character after watching their journey kind of vibe. And reflecting on where, like, each character has started to where they are now at the end of the show. And it won't just focus on season 5 like the previous ones have. It's kind of our final definitive, this is how I feel about these characters. And I'm really excited because I haven't obviously had a completed series on my channel to this level. So I'm excited for this to be the first one. And I'm excited to talk about all these characters who have really, like, changed and grown. The characters included on the list, I didn't make the list. It was made... Does it tell me? It just says modified. I don't know if it says who made it. But they did... They had to be characters who have speaking lines and they appear in multiple episodes. So it's mostly just going to be our main people. Which I think works, because I think if you got into all the little side characters, as fun as that would be, we would be here for 4 hours. So these are really our characters who we watch grow, we watch make big decisions. So my tiers, I have my fave, they can do no wrong. I stand for their rights and their wrongs. Talented, brilliant, amazing, incredible. Those are for people who are basically my fave, but I might be more critical of them than I am, like, your fave character who are like, yeah, my fave character did just do that awful shit, but I love them and I'll excuse it. Because we're people, they're fiction, and it's okay to do that. Like, you don't have to, like, get angry or anything, but, like, it's okay. I will say, I'll go through these and then I'll say my little thing. Then we have thank you for coming. Glad we got to meet you, which means, like, we're happy they were in the show. We really like them. They probably weren't, like, having a huge impact on us. You were in the show. That is for people who we do not have super strong feelings about either way. We don't vibe is more like, you're not, like, super evil or anything, but, like, it's just not my kind of character. I'm not that into you or your storyline or things like that. Bye, don't talk to me or my dog ever again. I think there's probably one person who's gonna end up, one or two that will end up in that. But that is for characters who I don't fucking like, even if they're good characters. It's for people who I'm like, yeah, we don't like you. And that includes if you're not supposed to like them. That doesn't... Going in that tier does not mean the character is badly written or the character shouldn't have been in the show. That tier is like, I'm mad at you. It is just like, I like these are the characters I like, I love, I like, I enjoy, I'm neutral about, kind of we're not clicking, and I fucking hate you, how dare you. Doesn't mean I don't want them in the show. I'm probably the people in that tier are people you're supposed to feel that way about. But, you know, sometimes I'm crazy and people don't agree. This is obviously not a critique on the writing or anything. It is truly just my personal preference and vibe. I I encourage people to tell me what they agree and don't agree with in the comments. Of course, if you are going to comment, I please ask that you are respectful to me and to each other. It is just a TV show at the end of the day. There have been times where I see people like swearing at each other and calling each other names in comments, and I'm like, well, I'm going to delete that because what the hell? It's a TV show. People are dying. If you want to go fight some people, there's some stuff you can do. But, like, this is a TV show. At the end of the day, if someone doesn't like your fave as much as you do, that's okay. That doesn't make them a bad person. They just have different life experience and like different characters. I definitely have had Buffy ones where I put characters that people like way low and they are not happy about it. And I'm like, I don't care. It's how I think. This is my tier list. If you don't agree, make your own tier list and tag me in it. Oh, I almost knocked my mic over. Drama. That was someone sending me bad vibes for not liking their character. But yeah, so this is just for fun. Try not to take it too seriously. Just have a good time. Okay? Let us go. We are starting with our girl, our queen. She makes me sad. She makes me sad. But she is talented, brilliant, amazing, incredible. She sacrifices herself for Adora, for everybody. She makes the ultimate sacrifice. She is a boss-ass bitch who was working hard from the minute we met her. We didn't always agree with how, like, over protective she was of Glimmer. But we understood where it came from, especially after having lost Micah and being a queen who has been fighting a rather stagnant, almost losing rebellion for so long. It is very stressful. But, like, she always came through. She would listen, and I think her and Glimmer had developed better communication by the end. And I sobbed like a fucking baby when she passed. Especially the episode after that, where, like, Glimmer was becoming queen. It was just a sob fest. That is probably the most I cried in this show. And I think she deserves that placement. She's not one of my faves that can do no wrong. She can do wrong. But I love her, and she's talented, brilliant, amazing, incredible. Bo's dads, I think they go in, thank you for coming. I'm glad we got to meet you. Because I do like them, but, like, if someone was like, came up to me and was like, oh my god, don't you love this character and this character, and we were talking about the show, I don't know that I ever even mentioned Bo's dads in the convo. Like, I enjoy them when they're on the screen, but they are in only a couple of episodes. I do think the episode with Bo telling his dads the truth is a very good one. I think it can be applied to a lot of real life situations of hiding who you really are from your parents. And so I do like them, but they're not like a character where I'm like, oh my god, I have to talk about this character, you know? Bigger player here, we've got our boy Bo. I love Bo. I don't know if Bo's here. I think Bo is in talented, brilliant, amazing, incredible. I'm going to be stingy. I want to make that clear that I am going to be stingy about this character. I guess he goes above her though, but I'm going to be stingy about who I put in my fave. My faves are going to be people very, very much like this person. I vibe. It's this person. Everything they do. I think looking at it, I'm not going to say who. If you've been watching the whole time, you probably know which characters are going up there. But I think there's probably 2 to 4. It'll really just depend on how I'm feeling when I get there to each person. But I'm going to be very stingy because that's going to be like S+++ tier. Talented, Brilliant, Amazing, Incredible is more just for all the people I really like. Which is a lot of characters. I think it'll still be a pretty full tier. But, like, you gotta have that extra, like, this is my person. Like, I want to cosplay you. I want to read fanfiction about you. I want to see art of you. That person, those people are special. Okay? We all have those special characters close to our heart. We'll get to them. Glimmer's aunt... Kitty crying was in the show. She did grow on me by the end of the show. But she wasn't exactly, like, a fave of any kind, if that makes sense. Like, and most of the time when she was in the show, she was pissing me off. But, like, she grew on me enough that I feel like if it was pre-season 4, she'd be, like, here. But she grew on me enough throughout the last season that she's here. If that makes sense to you guys. I'm trying to get Nora to come over to say hi since she's so vocal today, but she does not want to. Yeah, like, she's fine. I liked her. She kind of gave, like, that aunt who criticizes you through compliments in the beginning, and that was really, like, annoying. And then she was helpful near the end, and she got better at being supportive of Glimmer, especially after her mom died. But she wasn't, like, again, not a character that I'm like, oh, yay, they're in the episode, or, oh, yay, I have to talk about them, like, in a positive way. Like, I feel like if I was talking about the show and she came up, I'm more likely to talk about how she treated Glimmer in the beginning than at the end, so I think that's where she falls. Our first entry into the My Fave Can Do No Wrong tier, and I think some people will be surprised by this, because I was kind of hard on Catra throughout the show on certain, seasons, due to her character's decisions, which made sense for the character. It was not a criticism on how the character was written. It's because I love the character so much and I wanted to shake her and be like, no! Because, like, I related to her so much. I have my own issues with, like, a toxic parent figure who is no longer in my life, and, like, there's so many times I just wanted to be like, no, cut the cord, girl! As someone who had to go through that in my own life, with a father figure, it was like, no, you'll be so much happier, when you realize their problems are their problems, and I think I was saying how much she needs therapy. Same. I really love Catra. I relate to her. I think she's one of the best written characters in this show, because she's so complicated, right? She is like the Zuko of this show. But even when she's making bad decisions and you're mad at her, you still love the character. And I know there are so many other people who love this character as well, because anytime I had a little criticism for her, people would come out in waves to tell me I was wrong and she can do no wrong. She can, but in a way that when she's your fave, you're like, no, I'm not gonna hold it against her because I love her. And I think that's good. Like, I think she has one of the best arcs of the show. She gets the girl at the end of the show, which we're happy about. Good for the lesbians. The lesbians are like, we win. We winning. We stay winning. And I think she went on a growth arc that was so well written, and, like, because you would love her and be mad at her, but you would understand, and it was so well done. She's a character that went through a lot more trauma that she had to pull herself out of. And I just love seeing her have friends at the end and being with Adora and everyone and just getting to be happy. I hope that future vision Adora had comes true and they can just be that happy. Because I think she deserves it, and I think she's one of the most compelling characters in this show. DT, thank you for coming. I'm glad we got to meet. They're an icon. I do love DT. I don't know if I can put them that high, because I don't know if they did anything that made me love them that much, but I do like the character. Like, again, it's a character that I like, and if someone brought them up, I would talk about the things that I like, but I think if I'm talking about the show, I'm probably not bringing them up as a fave. But I think DT was a great villain, very well written, of looking out for themselves and only, like, kind of giving in when they know it will benefit them. Like, when they're like, yeah, I'll betray Catra for Glimmer because Glimmer will let me out of here. Like, it works out. And that was one of the best twists in the show, for me personally. And I love when DT comes back pretending to be that, like, prince. They're just a really fun, like, little villain that it's not like an end of the world level villain, but they brought a lot of, like, intrigue and fun to the show. So I'm really glad they were in it. Entrapta is so hard because Entrapta, like, is in the middle here where, like, they're talented, she's talented, brilliant, amazing, but then I also relate to her a lot, and I'm like, but there are times I'm mad, but it's similar to, like, Catra, I think. Entrapta goes up here. For me, as someone who's on the spectrum, I relate to her so much. Maybe not always to the same level of her ability to get distracted. I have a lot of stress about, like, always thinking people are mad at me, and hate me, which is a little different to her not, like, registering the emotion. But I think her growth is so important because we see it so many times in this last season where she's about to get distracted and she's like, no, focus, push through. She, like, really grew as a character. She, like, was able to learn skills to better emotionally connect with her friends, and, like, I think she did that without losing who she was, and I think that's amazing. I'm not as big a fan of her and Hordak, but I'm happy that she's happy. And I love her design. I also just love the color purple, so I think that might be part of me going, yeah, I love her. But, like, she's so well designed and she's so cool, and I love how she walks and does stuff with her hair. She's just a little above for me. And when I think of this show, like, if someone was like, who are your favorite characters, I know she's on, like, the list. Like, my fave Can Do No Wrong is, like, your top 5, right? Your top 4 or 5, and I know she's on there if someone asked me. Like, that's who's going in that tier. Even, like, when she was, like, kidnapped, kind of, like, left behind, and they thought she was dead, like, that storyline was so fun, of her and Scorpia and Catra and their reactions, and it always made, I think, the Fright Zone sections way more fun and interesting to have her there, and I think she's just really great on the show. Frosta is talented, brilliant, amazing, incredible. I actually do think she could almost go down here just because I feel in the last season she wasn't as utilized. She was utilized, but I felt like I fell off her a bit. I think she had already gone through most of her growth, and was kind of just her final character all through season 5. So I almost feel a little more detached. But I still love Frosta. She's a young girl who has so much responsibility on her shoulders. I love her and Glimmer's friendship. I love her powers. And I think she's such a fun character. I do like the storyline with her I can think of, and I can't remember, I think it's in this season, is her and Glimmer's dad, and he's, like, trying to, like, be very daddish towards her. And she's kind of like, there's a bird chirping outside the window, and I was like, what is that? And I was kind of like, okay, like, she's been through a lot. She doesn't want to be treated like a little kid, but then they kind of bond. And I think that was wonderful. So I think overall, she's great. She's a great character. She doesn't probably pop on my top 5, but I still really like her. My Queen Glimmer is top. Glimmer and Catra are kind of tied for top, but if I had a top 5 and they were like, you have to write them in order, it might be Glimmer, Catra, but it might also shift depending on the day and, like, the vibe I'm feeling. But they're basically tied for my top, and I think their similarities and their differences are a part of that. I think I see a lot of myself in both of them, and I really, like, vibe with both their characters. I think we've talked about it. I think they're kind of similar in some ways, of doubting themselves and feeling like not enough, and then they actually are really great and powerful. And I think they're both stubborn. But I really like them both. Glimmer went on a huge journey throughout this show. When we first met her, she was kind of very headstrong, doesn't listen to others, do what I want, kind of judgmental, could be kind of mean sometimes. And she didn't really have friends outside of Bo. And I think we got to really watch her grow. She felt, she tried to mess with the dog, and the dog went, I don't fucking think so. Nara, come sit. She's like, no, I'm mad. gotta refocus my thought. She, like, really grew as a person. I think she felt very young at the beginning of this show, and then by the end of the show, she becomes queen, and she feels like a queen. She feels like a leader. She's a good friend. She has gone through stages where, like, she felt so alone that she made some bad choices, but you could, again, understand where the knowledge for that choice came from, even if you don't agree with it, which I think is what makes, again, the show's so good. It's like, even when characters make decisions you don't like, you're like, well, I know why you're making the decision. And I think I love her character design. I love the character. I love the voice actors. I love the story. I love her growth. And I just love Glimmer. Sorry. I'm biased. I'm biased to Glimmer and Catra. Get over it. But I love them both. I think they have very similar character growths. I think Catra's takes a little longer and she has some different kind of trauma to work through. I'm glad Glimmer got her dad back at the end of the day. The only thing is I wish he could have got his chip off sooner so we could see them talk a little bit more. I would have appreciated that a little bit just because I was ready for that conversation to destroy me emotionally. But yeah, Glimmer is my top fave currently as of making this. Her and Catra can flip-flop throughout days, but today, those are my top two for sure. There's no one passing either of them left on this list. I just put that out there. Hordak. See, I feel like this one might be the first one where people get a little bit, like, pissed. Please remember to be respectful. We don't vibe. He has done, like, two things in this show. Two things in this show that I like, which is he was nice to Entrapped at that time, and he shot Lord Prime, or Horde Prime. That's it. Those are the two things I like that the man did in the show. Everything else sucked ass. Yeah, I don't know. He's a bad guy. You're not supposed to like him, but, like, they give him a little bit, I guess, of likability with him in Entrapped. But for me, I was like, this doesn't make me like him. Like, he's still trying to kill everyone on their planet. Like, I don't know. I was just like, him falling in love with Entrapped was not enough for me to be like, he's good and I like him now. I was like, I don't care. Stop killing people. You wiped out Scorpia's entire race. Are you crazy? No, but you know what I mean. I'm just like, no. He's not for me. I do see the appeal of, like, the bad guy turned good, but I think if we're looking at that storyline in this show, Catra does it the best. Like, no one else is, like, bad guy to good guy storyline, except I guess maybe Adora, but Adora happened so fast in the beginning, I don't really count it. Hers is the best. It's insane. Her character's so compelling. I just don't find Hordak that compelling. I was just like, I don't like you. I don't like you and we don't vibe. That's okay though. If you do like Hordak, good for you. We maybe have different tastes in characters and experiences in life, but I don't think that's a bad thing. But you know who will go below him? I hate him. And you're supposed to hate him. He is in this tier because they did such a good fucking job. Because I fucking hated him. I would, like, there were times in those where I would be crying and then it cut to him and all the tears would soak up and I'd be like, I hate him. Like, the anger would come out. He was an amazing final villain. And I think even because he was sprinkled in mentions of him by, like, Hordak and stuff in the earlier seasons, he doesn't feel like he came out of nowhere. It feels like he has always been a threat hovering on the edges of the story until he's able to come in at the end of season 3. At the end of whichever season it was. And it feels like he's always kind of been there on the peripherals, and then you're like, oh, he's the main fucking bad guy now. And I think he's great at it. Like, he's so smarmy and egotistical, and so, like, I'm right and you're wrong, and eat this dead ass people's dessert, Glimmer. And she's like, I hate this man. He's also good at it. Like, he's very good at what he's doing, which makes it way more scary. And I just think he's a great villain. I think great final villain. Great build up. I hate him. And I'm supposed to. Our girl, I did like her. I think she's thank you for coming. Glad we got to meet, because the characters the episodes she's in are always fun. I enjoy her when she's in an episode, but she's not like, oh, I can't wait to see Huntara again. It's like, if she's there, I'm gonna enjoy her in the episode, but like, it's not like a fave. We met her in the Wasteland. She was helpful there, and then she helped out when Glimmer became queen. But we really didn't see her that much. She was in that last episode for a moment. We saw, like, her chip deactivate. Yeah. But I don't think there's too much to say about Huntara. She's a side character, but she's a fun one. Kyle! Kyle's up here. I love Kyle. Kyle's my favorite of that little trio. Because he's sweet. At the end of the day, he's just sweet. He was nice to Bo. He had that one episode where he really got to be a hero, and be like, I'm gonna fix the thing, and I really liked that. It was a great showing from Kyle. I think I would have liked if him, Lonnie, and Rogelio had been utilized a little more in the final season, like maybe if they were with the rebellion and like only some of them got chipped as well. I would have liked if they were integrated a little more, but I do get it's already a lot of characters in the story, and they're pretty short episodes, so I'm like, that's fair. But I think out of the three of them, Kyle will be the highest. He's definitely the one I remember and like the most. Bye. Light Hope sucks. I know she helps out at the end, like, at her end, at least. She makes the right choice, and she supports Adora for her relationship with Mara that she couldn't super remember. But at the end of the day, most of Light Hope is being a computer or being an asshole. And that ain't a bad thing, because she does it really, really well. We just don't vibe. I think I probably vibe more with Light Hope than Hordak, but I'm less concerned with that on the bottom list. Yeah, like, I don't think you're supposed to be like, OMG, Light Hope's my fave. Like, no. But she's still fun. She's important to the story. They all are. No one on this list should not be in the show, by the way. That's not how it works. It's just how I feel about the characters, and Light Hope is not someone that I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait to talk about Light Hope with you guys. Just like, no, it's fine. She sucks. We knew she was up to something from the very first episode, or first time she showed up. I went, I don't trust this woman, and I was right. And I was right. Lonnie, I do like Lonnie, but I think Lonnie was in the show. Like, there were times where I think Lonnie really shined, and then there were times where I was like, Lonnie, you're kind of an asshole right now. I think I'm gonna do Lonnie and Rogelio together. I think they're not as standout to me as Kyle of that, like, group. Nara, come sit. Stop crying. She's like, no. But I don't think they're as likable to me as Kyle. I still think they're a fun that group together is really fun, but I don't know that we saw them go through that much growth and change. Like, we did see Kyle. He started as completely their punching bag. We see him, like, kind of be a hero, and that's great. Whereas I feel like they're the similar characters to when they started to when they finished. They just leave the Horde. I don't think there's too much growth there, but I do still love them. Talented, brilliant, amazing, incredible. We love Madame Raz. She is a queen. God, this is gonna be so hard. I love so many of these characters, but I want my fave can do no wrong to be my top 5. I can't put everyone in there. Not everyone can do no wrong. So that's why it gets hard. But, yeah, Raz is someone who has been in since the beginning. She's been very helpful since the beginning. We kind of didn't understand, like, she would get Adora and Mara confused, and you'd kind of be like, oh, is it just because they're She-Ra? And then you realize she's going back and forth between time as we're speaking, which is an insane plot point that works so well, and I really enjoy. I was so moved and loved the episode where we see that happen and we see her interacting with Mara. Raz is always also looking out for our characters, and she's always helpful. Every season where she shows up, it's like Madame Raz is involved and she's helping. Whether it feels like that way at first or not, I think she's one of my favorites. That is a side character who we don't see as often. I think she's probably the highest of those. Mara. This is hard because, like, I feel like I don't see Mara that much, but I'm still putting her here because every time I see her, I live. I live for Ghost Mara. I live for Hologram Mara. I live for Memory Mara. I live for whatever the fuck she was at the end. I think there's just an attachment to Mara that I can't explain, and it's like the beautiful way they've written this character who we know is not alive. We might wonder at a few points and be like, oh, maybe she is, but she's not. She's not actually here, but her ability to haunt the narrative and be involved post-mortem is like so well done that you feel like you know her. And we're figuring out who she is from the very beginning. She's so pivotal to the plot, and the way they use her is just perfect that she goes there without actually having been in that many episodes. We have another person taking their rightful place on My Fave Can Do No Wrong, even when she's possessed by Hordak, or Evil Lord Horde Prime. I'm on her side. I love Mermista. I've loved her since she got introduced. I love her design. I love her vibe. I love her relationship with Seahawk, even though he's crazy. Her powers are sick. I love when she goes full Nancy Drew. She's one of the princesses that, similar to Entrapta of the side princesses, really gets these bigger moments. Especially when they lose her kingdom to the Horde. And then we see her kind of she's depressed, and then they save Seahawk and Bo, and then she starts to fight back, and we saw I think she's just really resilient, and I really like her. I think I love her sarcasm. Like, Mermista might be in the top 5 as, like, even more of a vibe, but, like, I love the, like, the episodes where she's leading the mystery. When she was Chip, she was one of the hardest people for them to fight because her powers are insane. And I think she always adds fun, like, sarcastic commentary to every episode she was in. So, like, whenever she was in one, I'd be like, oh, I know I'm gonna laugh this episode. Like, I'm gonna have a good time. And I always did. So, she's definitely up there. Her and Entrapta are probably tied. I feel like, yeah, they're probably tied for where I would put them if I was actually ranking a top 5 similar to Catcher and Glimmer. They would probably switch between 4 and 5, just between the two of them, depending on the day and how I'm feeling. I feel like that's good for today. But Mermista, always fun, always enjoy when she's in an episode. I would get so excited in the early season when she would be in an episode because it wasn't as common. And so I love her intro episode as well. So, yeah, that's where she belongs. Glimmer's dad is, thank you for coming. I'm glad you got to meet and you're not dead. I don't know if we saw enough of him to me to be like, oh my god, I love him. I think he seemed awesome when he was himself, but then for most of season 5, he's mind controlled. So it's like we really only got to see him in, like, that little section. So I don't feel like I know him as well as I know, like, her mom. But I still really like him. I wish we got a little more of him and Glimmer getting to reconnect, just because I really wanted to see that so I could cry more, I guess. But I like that he's actually introduced before we know he's alive in, like, Shadow Weaver's backstory. I like his connection with her. I think it, like, makes the world feel more connected. I love in the episode where Angela dies at the end of season 3, when she realizes she has to leave the fantasy to go help. He's like, wait, and it cuts off, and you don't know what he's gonna say, and then you find out he was probably about to be like, wait, no, I'm alive on Beast Island, like, come get me. But it hit, and he was sent back to wherever he was. So when you get there, you're like, oh my god, that's such a good plant. Like, you could pick that line out, but, like, that's gonna be something you pick out when you're rewatching, right? Because you're, in the moment, gonna be focused on the queen. So I really enjoy him. He's just not, I think he just wasn't there long enough for me to be like, oh, I love this character, you know? Natasha, talented, brilliant, amazing, incredible. She really grew on me in the last couple seasons. I'm gonna put her and Spinnerella together because that's where they belong. They both were almost these, like, write-off characters in the very first season, right? They were like, Glimmer was like, yeah, we have the council, it's us and those two who show up sometimes. And they're kind of almost the forgotten about characters, and then they're like, wait a second, these characters are actually boss-ass bitches, and we are going to, like, focus on them a little more, especially, like, her getting chipped first, and then Natasha, like, she really had a moment where she felt like the main character of that episode where they first come back to Earth. And she's like, this is what we're doing. I'm tracking her down. I'm trying to get her. I think they have great growth from, like, less, like, their characters themselves needing to grow, just, like, how they were being utilized. And I think by the end, in the beginning of the show, you're like, oh yeah, those the ladies are there. But I don't even think you really consider them part of the group until these later seasons where you're like, yeah, they're kind of like leading the group. And I like that way more when they were used that way. I think they're really compelling. I'm going to get Wrong Hordak out of the way. I did like him. He was funny. I don't know if he's like, I like him more. He's mostly, there's a couple moments where he made me laugh, so I think that pumps him up to thank you for coming. Glad we got to meet. He's like almost between those two tiers, I feel like. But he did get a good amount of laughs out of me in the final season, so I think that's what he earns. He's not a character that's been here long. I just kind of like him. He's silly. But he's a clone that got detached, and they kind of like radicalized him against Horde Prime. I keep calling him Lord Prime. Can you tell I'm excited for Bridgerton? The new season drops on Thursday. As of the day I'm recording this is Tuesday. But yeah, I think he's just fun. He doesn't have too much for me to talk about. I think Perfuma, talented, brilliant, amazing, incredible. Perfume is one of the princesses. It took a little longer to grow on me with her. But by the end of the show, you're like, yeah, I love her. Of course I love her. When did I never not love her? And I think her power's insane. I think the story where we first meet her is really engaging, where her people don't want to engage at all with the war, but at the same time are like, but help us with our tree, She-Ra. And then they learn to fight back and they join. And it is really a journey of Perfuma, like, discovering friendship and helping others discover friendship and, like, just being really open to meeting others and supporting them. And I love her and Scorpia's friendship is one of my favorite friendships by the end of the show, because they're just so different in how they're stylized and looked, but they get along so well. And I think the first time, like, Frosta and her talk to Scorpia, and Scorpia realizes, like, they realize Scorpia hasn't had, like, real food or friendship, really. They were like, oh my god. And they immediately just want to, like, hug her and hold her. Swiftwind is also talented, brilliant, amazing, incredible. I just think he's he's not like a main character in any way, but he's just a really fun side character, which maybe means he should be in Thank You for Coming, Glad You Were Here, but he's above that. Like, he has his connection with Adora. He's helped so many times in this show. But he's really his own character at the same time, which is a lot harder when you're like a talking animal than when you're like a person with powers and stuff like that. Also, he's just cute, and if there is a big fluffy squishy of him, I want it. I want it. But yeah, I really do love Swiftwind. I don't know how much of a character journey he went on. Like, maybe he was way more self-centered in the beginning when he first realized he could talk. And I think his story is more about his, like, relationship with Adora really grows. The only thing I do wish is that he had somehow been involved with her in the final couple episodes, even if it was when she came out, and she needed him with her to, like, do that last power-up thing. I just would have liked that, because they felt like they were always stronger when they were together. But it's not, like, a big deal. It's just, like, something if I was thinking about it, I'd be like, yeah, that's what I want. Let's do Seahawk. Seahawk's interesting. I feel like people aren't gonna like this, but I think this is where Seahawk is. I like Seahawk. Don't get me wrong. And I value him in the show. But if people were talking about our favorite moments and characters, I don't know how many of them for me come from Seahawk. Again, still valued, important character. I don't think he goes through too much growth. I think he'd still set ships on fire at the end. I do think he gets better at expressing himself, but that almost feels like when the show wants him to. Like, he's really good at expressing himself to Mermista when she's, like, mind controlled at the end there. That scene is very powerful, and it literally was the only scene making me consider upping him one. But I think overall, he can be a nuisance sometimes. We love him, but he can be. Like, when he got Himbo and Swiftwind kidnapped. His singing is funny. I like him and Mermista together. It's just, like, it's one of the things where you're like, she's beautiful, gorgeous, and he's there. But he's still fun. Like, it's not a hit on you if you're like, I really love him. That's awesome. He's just not my vibe. And I think that's okay. She did a good thing. She did do a good thing at the end of the day. I don't care. Not that I don't care. I think Shadow Weaver had the correct ending. I could not see her surviving the final thing. I was like, there's no way, because there's with the level of things she did, there was no realistic way to wrap her up in the ending that didn't feel like hollow, or she had so much more work to do. I think she did the one thing she could do as a character to have any redemption, and that is to sacrifice herself for Adora and Catra and, like, stop being a bitch for 5 seconds. But I still don't like her. Are you kidding me? Power hungry, stole Scorpia's power, abused and pitted Catra and Adora against each other from childhood. Like, no, bad lady. Tried to use Glimmer, but Glimmer went, fuck off, I had a good parent. I'm not falling for your shit. And Glimmer was like, I'm gonna make my own decisions. But, like, you're not supposed to like Shadow Weaver, and I don't. I don't want to talk to her. Like, if she survived, I'd be like, okay, leave. There's no jail. Prison. I don't think I think you're supposed to understand and appreciate Shadow Weaver's sacrifice, but I don't think it makes you like her. Like, that's not enough for me to be like, I like her now. I'm like, no, good, you should sacrifice yourself. You're like evil. And a lot of this is partly caused by you. So, fuck off. It's just a character where I'm like, yeah, I think she got the only ending that makes sense. And it's great, but, like, I don't like her. I think she's a great villain, but again, so is Horde Prime. I don't like them. Okay, this is interesting, because I said I'm only putting 5 people in the my fave can do no wrong category. And I'm stuck. I could put 6, but I feel like this is more drama if I don't. which is interesting. No, I love them both. I really don't. I think you guys aren't here. I don't know. I can't ask you if I should break my rule. Because, like, one of them, I'm like, both of them, I'm like, I think they both belong in both categories. Oh, no. I saved them to the end because I didn't know where I wanted to put either of them. Because sometimes I feel like they're similar to the others where they kind of switch out of my fave can do no wrong and Talented, Brilliant, Amazing, Incredible. Because I do really like them both. Or I bring Mista or Entrapta down one. Or it's my tier list and I can break the rules as much as I want. Okay, they're both going up here. I broke the rules. Sue me. Sue me. I love them both. It's hard. I feel like maybe Scorpia goes down here, but then I'm like, oh, but maybe Adora goes down here. Because I still do really like them both. But I relate so much to both of them in different ways as well. Okay, we'll start with Scorpia. Scorpia is such a good character. From the moment she shows up and she just wants to be Catra's friend, like, there are times where she does not understand, boundaries. Well, we've all been there. She also takes so much on the fucking chin from Catra. There are so many people who are like, well, Scorpia didn't respect her boundaries. I'm like, well, Catra's a huge bitch to her. Like, I think she probably has boundaries of not wanting to be called names, and Catra don't respect that. Which is why their friendship is so interesting. And they kind of, like, the way she, like, grows on people, I think is so fun. I think her history is so interesting that, like, we first meet her and she's like, yeah, my family willingly gave our runestone to the Horde. And it's like, no. Because then you go into this, like, sacred place for her family and you see it, like, defaced by graffiti and what Shadow Weaver is doing to her stone. And it's like, no. That is not really what's happening there. You kind of, and they don't ever outright say it, right? But you can view it, you can see how she's treated, and you can kind of put it together for yourself that she was probably very young and that's what they told her happened. But a lot of things like that use, like, propaganda and fake history to make themselves the victims or the heroes, and it's like, that's not the real history of what's happening. I also think I was someone advocating for Scorpia to get her powers because I believe that she had a right to them as much as the other princesses had a right to their powers, even though it does lead to the Heart of Etheria being activated. I think it's important for her to have that part because it is a part of her and her culture, and she deserves to have it. Especially with everything else from her culture kind of erased at that time. And I just think one of my favorite episodes is when Scorpia realizes that by being so loyal to Catra, she's actually being a bad friend to Entrapta. She let her just go, and Emily in a way. And that friendship is a lot more complicated than just being loyal, because what happens when being loyal to one person means you're harming someone else. Like, there is a finer line of balance, and I think she learns that with the other princesses. And we see, I knew she'd forgive Catra immediately when she saw her, because that's who Scorpia is. She's like, she never wanted to be mad at Catra or anything, but she got some self-respect and realized that, like, this person, as much as I care about them, it's just hurting me, and it's not good to be around them right now. I need to go take care of the people who want me around. And it's a really good storyline. And it leads into, like, a very big storyline of Bow and Adora wanting to go to Beast Island and Glimmer being like, no, we have to figure this out first. And that's, like, a big storyline in the show that is kind of moved forward by Scorpia. She's very important to the series. Finally, our girl Adora, there are times where I feel like she has main character syndrome and it makes me drop her here. But I still really like her, so I can't do that. Because I also understand her so much. She has so much weight on her shoulders, you know? She, like, in the very first episode finds out that, like, the people she is fighting for, who she was raised by, are not the good guys. She's the bad guy. And she's hurting innocent people. And she's immediately like, oh, my worldview has changed. Fuck them. This obviously leads to, like, her being like, Catra, come with me. And Catra's like, oh, change? No fucking thank you. That's scary. But we see Adora grow from, like, this soldier to someone who's starting to feel her emotions and connect with them more. And her strength grows, her power grows, her belief in herself and her friends grow. And we get, there are those moments where you see, she's like, my life doesn't matter more than the ending. Like, winning and stopping the bad guys matters more than me. And she has that moment with Mara that, like, hits you in the gut where she's like, you deserve to be happy. Like, you don't have to always make the final sacrifice. Like, there are other ways. Figure it out. Like, I died so you wouldn't have to. And that moment is so moving. And I think Adora understands that a little more by the end, right? She chooses to stay with Catra, which is on opposite to the beginning where she's asking Catra to come with her and Catra says no. This time she's like, choosing to stay with Catra is not going to kill more people. I'm choosing it. When she can, she will always choose the people she loves and she'll fight for them. And that's where I think her power comes from. That's what I got from the show. I think she's an amazing main character. She's not perfect. She makes mistakes. I feel like I say this for every character, but especially for a main character. You guys know there are some shows where your main character does the worst fucking shit in the world and they face no repercussions because they're the main character. It's okay they did this horrible thing. In this show, like, you do something bad, it doesn't matter if you're the main character. Like, you're gonna face the repercussions from it. You're gonna have to fix it. And I think that's why they feel so real and memorable. Everyone on this list was memorable. You can't, like, I was having a conversation about characters, I feel like, and it was really long, everyone would come up eventually. These are just who I would be the most excited to talk about. And with that, the show is over. It's over! This is my final ranking of all the characters. If I had to rank the seasons, I don't know that I could do that. But season 4 and 5 are pretty high up there. I have really enjoyed going on this journey with you all. If this is your main series you react to and this is the only series of me you saw, I appreciate you watching and liking. If you'd like to watch more shows with me, you can subscribe. We will be starting Steven Universe on Thursday, which I know nothing about, so I'm going in completely blind. I'm excited to see what it is about. And yeah, I'm excited to dive into more animated shows as we go. Animation Thursdays are still going. Thank you again, everyone who has watched and been with me through this. And while we won't be watching She-Ra again, I still hope I'll see you next time.